Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm joined here once again by my co-host, Stephen Billings. I'm Andrew Cabral, and this is not the best opening we've ever done because I'm just making this up as I go along.
I surprised. Usually, a lot of times, I'm the one that starts the show, and I was just like, Andrew, I was like pointing at him like, do it. Now go ahead, you start. And he was just like, I didn't come up with something clever, so here we are. You know, he didn't. Yeah,
here we are, but it's not the smoothest transition, but so we're on Chasing Labels number 38, Spy number 38. It's been a quick turnaround from last week. Last week was a super duper, almost double stuffed episode, if I can use an Oreo reference there. Yeah. And it was a hell of a time.
Yeah, it was a lot. We had the Cinematic Void guys on. And they didn't talk Blu-rays with us, but we did have a nice conversation, and you should go back over there. And of course, we've had a guest every week for like the whole year so far. I think almost there might have been one week in there we didn't, but we've had a good run here, and this is like our first like just me and you for a while.
I think for the last couple of weeks we've had guests in some way, shape, or form, but this week it's a bit of a slower week, I guess, because it's only the two of us.
It's not slower. It's like there's still a pretty good amount to talk about here.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, but the reason we don't have a guest this week is just I gotta sometimes give ourselves some leeway here because these guests like sometimes have last minute things come up. So just in case, I leave like a week between sometimes, so that we've been on a pretty good run here. And nobody's had to cancel anything so far. So, but I do have a special news I can bring up that I've just booked, and I guess hopefully I don't jinx it. But I did book like we do have Kat Ellinger next weekend, and then which is confirmed, but. The episode after that would have been just me and Andrew again, but then I got like lucky, and then now we're gonna have one more special guest popping in the middle of the announcements I've already let out. I made like a flyer with a bunch of guests, so right between Kat Ellinger and Michael McKenzie, we're actually going to be getting the CEO of Blue Underground and also filmmaker of films like Maniac, Cop Series. He's got films like Uncle Sam, so cult horror films from the 80s into the 90s. And like I said, CEO of Blue Underground, Bill Lustig, is going to be coming on. So that is pretty awesome. Have you seen any of Bill Lustig's films? I've seen Maniac Cop.
I've seen Maniac Cop as well. I've seen the remake of Maniac, which starred Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
And I think he was a producer on that. He was a producer on that. And that came out in 2012, and that was on Netflix for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is or if it's made its way over to Shudder, but for those of you who don't know, basically Elijah Wood, since his post Lord of the Rings self from 20 years ago, he's in all these small like indie films, and a lot of them tend to be like these really odd horror films, like creepy horror films, which apparently he's very, very good in them, regardless of the quality of them. And he's just a consistent like indie actor now after being in one of the biggest mainstream franchises of all time.
Yeah. Before Lord of the Rings, he was a pretty steady indie actor.
Yes.
So
then he wasn't a big time actor. Not until that. Even that cast in itself, kind of a bunch of small-ish actors, but with a few like super highlights. Like Ian Holm was a big time actor. Ian McKellen, big time actor. Viggo Mortensen was kind of a medium type actor, and he's got more after.
I'm glad this has become a Lord of the Rings discussion instead of a Bill Lustig.
Yeah, I know.
Talk.
You want to get me going. Lord of the Rings. Is everything.
Maybe
to me,
one
I'll
day
just keep going.
We will talk. No, probably not.
Yeah,
sorry, Andrew.
You got me on the Elijah Wood train, and then I got.
Well, you got yourself on that by talking about the Maniac Cop thing.
Yes, I did. Maniac.
Maniac. Yeah.
But we will have Bill Lustig on in a couple of weeks, and we'll be talking some of Blue Underground stuff and how that all started. And
there might even be some special tidbits that are new things that they're going to release possibly.
They're working on, yes.
Yeah, so we might hear some new stuff too, so stay tuned for that. So that's going to be great. But this week you just get me and Andrew. I know you guys are disappointed, but we're going to take you through some great announcements for this past week. So you ready, guys? Yes, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Yes. Oh, that was our guest you didn't know about. That's Pinocchio.
Yeah, Pinocchio's here.
I'm a real boy.
Hopefully, we're not going to be lying about anything, so his nose won't grow.
Yeah, so if you hear a knock against the damn microphone, that's the nose hitting the But
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But getting back on track,
Yeah.
Stephen, where do you want to start? Let's start on the small end of things.
Oh, you
shall
asked
we?
me where I wanted to start, so now you're taking control here. Come on
Yeah,
now.
that wasn't really the best flow of
I
sentences
know.
I've
I'm
ever
sorry.
come
I'm
up
sorry.
with.
I'm gonna go with what you said, and let's go Warner Archive.
Okay, not super. It's super small when it comes to slate, but not super small when it comes to notoriety. So Warner Archive is back on their release track. I guess they're back to posting about their releases, which is nice to see. They did that with their previous release. They're doing it with these. So far,
I think you complained so much about it that they heard
they
you.
heard me.
Yeah,
They must have heard me. But they're back and they have 2 releases, so it's a bit of a smaller slate. Maybe they'll announce a couple more for all we know, probably. But they have 2 films. Coincidentally, both films star one of Steven's favorite actors, Kevin Costner.
Love him. Love Kevin Costner.
And the first film is Fandango, and the second is American Flyers. And Fandango is kind of the first kind of starring role for Kevin Costner, I would say. Came out in 1985, I believe, and this was before he would start his just run.
Tell you what, if this was the
Of a
first
lot of
starring
stuff.
role, man, he becomes a star pretty fast because, like, about 5 years later, he's like directing his own movie and winning Best Picture of the Year. And
Oh yeah,
you know.
it was a fast tracking trend for Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Really all the way up, I would say through the 90s. I mean, he's still working today, obviously, but he's not in the limelight as he was at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing smaller stuff on the small screen, television series.
Yeah, Yellowstone.
With Yellowstone and stuff like that. People know who Kevin Costner is. He really doesn't need no introduction, but he was in a bunch of like smaller roles early on in his career. Like when we talked about Night Shift,
Yes.
several episodes ago. He has a small cameo in that as frat boy number 1.
Yeah.
and this was like 3 years before Fandango would come out. And so like, but let me put it this way: Fandango is 1985. The Untouchables is 1987.
Oh yeah.
And
Jeez.
I mean, damn, what a turnaround! What a quick
Yeah.
rise. But Fandango is a really great kind of
Yeah.
a road film, road comedy about a bunch of friends who are just about the tail end of their college days, and it takes place in 1971. A couple of them are going to be drafted into the army because the Vietnam War is going on, and things like that. And they're just trying to have like one last real,
Yeah.
hurrah before they have to say goodbye,
And-
basically to
Yeah.
their youth.
And then one of
and
the
move
other
on to
one of the other
things.
one of the other leads is Judd Nelson, which most people
Yes.
know from Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club, which would be, I think, a year after this,
Yeah.
coincidentally. And it's a really great road film, good comedy, directed by Kevin Reynolds, who would then go on to direct Waterworld and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and The Count of
well-
Monte Cristo.
I mean, look. Obviously, some of them are not great. But Robin Hood was pretty successful. I know that.
I watched that a lot as a kid.
Yeah, I did too,
Like I had
yeah.
that VHS tape on repeat in my early years of my life.
Yeah, Waterworld, not so great. But
I think I've only seen Waterworld like once actually, which
It's-
may be
it-
sacrilege
it's
to
a
admit
movie.
that on screen.
it's a movie. It's not as bad as The
it's-
Postman.
I mean, it
It's not
has
as-
a huge cult following.
Oh yeah.
And also, I mean, it got an Arrow Deluxe release a
Yes, it
couple of
did.
years ago. So it's been well loved for a long time. It's also notorious for being one of the biggest flops of all time at the box office and
Yeah.
things like that. But moving on from Fandango, which I highly recommend people get. Like if I had to recommend people to buy something, this would be a movie for them. A lot of good life teaching moments and camaraderie and
It's got a very Americana feeling to it.
yeah, because they do travel the country as well, but it's not quite that. They're trying to get to some roadhouse down by Mexico and stuff like that. At one point they go to the place where the movie Giant was filmed with James
James Dean,
Dean,
yeah.
Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, and it's like this small town, and they kind of get stuck there. It's a really great film. But moving on from Fandango, we have a sports movie in American Flyers. It's about bicycle racing,
Yeah,
which you don't really see a lot of
I was
movies
gonna
made
say,
about bicycle racing.
the thing is, I have seen Fandango, but I haven't seen American Flyers, and of course, Kevin Costner's known for doing a lot of sports films, and this isn't one that I was aware of, to be honest, because he's done about every sport you can do. He's done baseball movies, he's done football movies, he's done golf movies, he's done.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
did. I think he even did a. Did he do a track running film? Didn't he do a film?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Isn't it called Oh, what's it called? Something USA.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I remember seeing it. You're gonna look
Oh,
it up.
you did see it.
I did. Well, no, I did see
Yeah,
it.
it's McFarlane USA.
McFarland USA. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's known for doing sports films, and this is not one I was aware of. So, I'll definitely be watching this when I get a
Yeah,
chance.
it's an interesting film because it is it is like like I said, a sports film about bicycling and stuff like that. But it's also a film that's it kind of centers around two brothers. Kevin Costner plays a Marcus Summers, and then his estranged brother, played by David Grant, is his name's David Summers, and basically, they 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 decide to like embark on like this journey of like trying to come back together after being like estranged, and then like they want to join. They're both like bicyclists, like that's their thing. So they both join this race, and it's about them kind of bonding. But then there's also kind of like familial issues they've got to overcome, and maybe some medical issues they got to work through as well, like family type stuff. It's a good film. It's a really solid film. Both of these films are definitely solid. Both of these films are both from the 80s, which is not something Warner Archive released a lot of. A lot of the Warner Archive stuff we've seen is more classic film related, if I could put that in quotes. But
At
I
least,
think these
at
are two
least
films.
lately. Yeah.
Yeah, both of these films I think needed Blu-ray releases.
Yeah.
Neither of them I don't think I've had any anywhere.
Yeah.
In my guess.
Yeah, and this is directed by John Badham.
Yes,
Who
John
did,
Badham back once again.
Yeah. We talked. I think the last time we might have talked about him was when he did. We talked about Bingo Long. From
Yes.
Yeah, he did that. He also directed like Saturday Night Fever.
Yes, we did. We talked about John Badham. He directed War Games, I
Yeah.
think.
Bird on a Wire. He's
he also
kind of a
direct-
journeyman director. Yeah.
Yeah, he directed Dracula with what's his name? Frank Langella.
Yes.
Uh,
yes.
Basically, it's like the more erotic version of Dracula, if you
Yeah.
can get to that, where Laurence Olivier plays Van Helsing. I know we talked about this many times because I finally bought that on Blu-ray after circling it for many, many years. But yeah, he's a journeyman director with a journeyman's type of career. He's done TV, he's done feature films. Yeah, he's doing back to more television now. Directed some episodes of Supernatural.
Yeah.
Wow, 9 episodes that
Good
I'm
for
looking on
him.
IMDb. But yeah, I'd recommend both of these films if I
Awesome.
had to say that. So a nice release slate from Warner Archive. Moving on from there, Steven, let's move
Oscilloscope.
to. I
Oscilloscope.
was going to say oscilloscope. Yeah,
Yeah.
oscilloscope. Yeah,
I
we're both on the
guess you.
same-
Agree, I guess you agree with me. That's
Yeah, we're both on the same wavelength. Another slate where there's only 2 films, and Oscilloscope is a small company that only releases a couple of
Shoot.
things here and there.
Yeah.
But they're releasing 2 modern films. One is a Canadian film called Les Nôtres, or Our Own, I think is the English title. And then they're also releasing a documentary called No Ordinary Man. And nothing in the way
it's
of
from
special
2020.
features.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both from 2020. I was able to watch Our Own, or Les Nôtres, on Canopy, so it's streaming on there. Really good film.
Okay.
Like a really solid indie film with a really good casting, really good acting, and it's a film that it's not exactly an original idea. We've seen it several times before. We've seen it come up a lot lately as well. As basically, it's a drama. It's a slow-moving drama about this young teenage girl who has an unplanned pregnancy,
Yeah.
and she lives in like this super small town, and like she's trying to keep it under wraps about who the father actually is, and all that kind of stuff. But as things escalate, rumors and things like that kind of take over, and it's her trying to deal with that and her trying to deal with all these things, but it's done at such a small, very personal level. There's no big scene of like any like overblown acting or all this kind of stuff. It's done in a very practical sense,
Yeah.
and it's directed by a director Jean LeBlanc, and the whole movie's in French, so you'll have to read subtitles because it's I think it's a Quebec film. And the young actress is Emily Bier. She's really good in the movie.
Okay.
And I think this is one that was at like a bunch of film festivals when it came out. So super indie, but really, really good. So if you are looking for kind of like an indie feel and you want a solid drama, this is definitely the movie for you.
Awesome. Well, the other one, I'm not. I wasn't able to watch it. I mean, it looks like this documentary. It's a documentary, an in-depth look at the life and musician of trans culture icon Billy Tipton. I have not seen this, and I'm not really aware of Billy Tipton, but this film is actually on Amazon Prime. So if you guys are interested in this, you can go rent it there. Anything about this that you're aware of?
No, actually, I've tried to watch it in time for the show, and I actually couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you mentioned
Yeah,
where
I'm
it
seeing
can be
Amazon
found.
Prime here. So
Oh, good, good, because I couldn't find it anywhere. I was trying to look up what oscilloscope. I know, like the release that we know of is, of course, Columbus,
yeah, they had a release of Columbus.
which I actually may be out of print by now or tough to find, because I know it was always super expensive. And no, it's still expensive. Actually, you can probably find it, but it's still super expensive. But Amazon has it as temporarily out of stock, and usually that means it may not be available from the company anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think Columbus is getting a re-release from someone.
You think? Who?
I don't know.
Chino?
Maybe
Are
that's
you
just
kidding
wishful.
me?
Maybe that's just wishful thinking.
Well, I mean, it's in a good version already. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I mean, it's yeah. This is the best version that we've gotten so far, but I would really love it to get an even more super deluxe release. That would be my
something with
That
maybe
would be
some
my
more
wish.
features maybe would be nice.
that would be my biggest wish. I mean, I know Kogonada just had another film premiere at Sundance,
Yes.
and that film I heard is really really good.
Really?
And yeah, I actually saved it to
I've
my
actually heard the opposite, that it was, but I don't know.
really.
Then again, the opinions don't necessarily match up all the time. This is Dan, our friend Dan, who came on.
Okay.
He said he wasn't that great. He didn't like it. So I was like,
Okay.
well, I don't know. Let me check it out.
Yeah, it's called After Gang.
Yeah.
That's the name of the film, starring Colin Farrell as well as I think Haley Lou Richardson's in it as well, who was also in Columbus.
Yeah.
Clifton Collins Jr. is in it as well. Trust me, anything Kogonada does after Columbus,
Yeah,
I'll watch it.
I'm gonna
I
have
don't
to
care
watch it. Yeah, it's so good.
what it is. That movie is.
I don't know what it is
I think
about that movie that's so impactful.
I know it was on your best of the decade list or your favorite of the decade list for the 2010s.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's that good of a movie, and it's still a movie that I think is criminally underseen and underrated. Like no
yeah.
one talks about it, and it's a distribution issue. It's like
Yeah.
it was streaming for a while. I don't know if it's still streaming, but even then, there's so much on streaming that so many things get lost.
It made
and
me.
it's one of those films that get lost.
It's a film that made me look at John Cho in a whole different way, like as an actor.
Yeah, I think it's his best work in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's his most serious work. Sincere serious work. I mean, he did do that movie Searching, which we've talked about a few times, which is also extremely serious, but this is just on another level. It's a special movie. It's a special movie, but that is Oscilloscope, super small company, putting out just 2 releases, and moving on from there.
Second Sight.
Second Sight. Let's
Yes.
move on to Second Sight for much, much bigger releases in probably literal size and scope. First, they're putting out a limited edition 4K UHD and Blu-ray release of The Witch, the incredible Robert Eggers film from
His debut.
his debut film. I want to say it's from 2018.
I
Yeah, I
said
want to say
8.
18.
Is it that? Nah, it might be a little bit further back than that, right? 2015.
No.
Yeah, it says
Oh my goodness,
2015.
that's 2015.
Yeah.
Oh my.
He made the lighthouse between this. That
I know, but I'm just saying, like,
18 is
two,
only 4 years ago.
yeah, 2015
Yeah.
is 7 years ago now because it came out around this time 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember when it came out, people were buzzing about it and people were talking about it. And it's just, yeah, it came out February 19th, 2016 in the United
Oh,
States.
okay. In the US.
So,
Yeah.
still 6 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
God damn. Time flies when life is what it is. But yeah, so The Witch is an incredible film. Great horror, psychological, surreal,
Folk horror.
brilliant
It's a
film.
folk horror. Yeah.
Folk horror, which
know,
we've talked a
it's-
lot about here on the show.
It's got more atmosphere than most films wish they had.
Oh yeah, it's the movie's so suffocatingly
Yeah.
horrific. It's an early film from Anya Taylor-Joy, who is now, of course, a gigantic star, and she's doing all kinds of things with like the Queen's Gambit, and all kinds of
She
stuff.
just did that Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, she was in Last Night in Soho. Her star is through the roof at this point.
And she's gonna be. I think she's in The Northman, which is Robert Eggers' next film.
Newest film.
And then she's
Yes.
also going to be in Robert Eggers' film after that, which is the remake of Nosferatu.
And she's also going to be in the Mad Max Fury Road prequel film,
Yes.
Furiosa, as Furiosa,
Yeah.
which was Charlize Theron's character in Mad Max Fury Road. It says here she's going to be in an untitled David O. Russell picture as well. Yeah, she's got
She's got it
a lot
going on.
going on.
Yeah.
She's also in, people don't even know this, I don't think. She's in the show Peaky Blinders as well, the show with Cillian Murphy, which is a great series, which I think is starting up its final season really, really soon. Yeah, but back in 2016, she was a relative unknown. At that point, she had only been in next to nothing. Next to nothing. And then after that, of course, she was in
Split. Yeah,
Split and Glass, and then, like we said, Queen's Gambit, and then a bunch of other smaller stuff that people don't really remember her being in, like that movie. Remember she was in that movie Morgan, where she was like had some superpowers or something. She was in Thoroughbreds, which is, I believe, Anton Yelchin's last film he may have made before he passed. And that movie is like a dark comedy, if you will.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much a comedy. It's kind of a creepy film, but it's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
So, but how did we get on this track?
Talking about
Second
the
Sight,
witch.
The Witch. So similar to what they had done with The Guest, they're giving us a big deluxe.
Well, I mean, I would say this
edition.
is close to what they did. I mean, even in the look of it, it kind of looks like the Babadook release.
Yes.
Literally by the aesthetics, being a very all black,
the
kind
movie's
of like
very
look.
literally black and dark, and
Yeah. And they're both, psychological
that-
horror films.
I know Black Phillip walking around. What's thou like to live deliciously?
Yeah.
Movie's amazing. Robert Eggers is an astonishing filmmaker. I just keep thinking of The Lighthouse all the time.
Dude, his movies, I mean, look, he's only done a couple movies, and, we've seen what he's going to, by the trailers of the Northman, but he's got such a stamp to his films. He's, when you see his movies, it's Robert Eggers. And when you got filmmakers like that coming out, he's becoming one of my favorites. Every time I see what he's got coming out, I'm there for it. Like every time.
Oh yeah, there's such a coarse bleakness to his movies, specifically aesthetically and tonally, that you kind of have to be in the vibe for. You know what I mean? They're not uppers. You know what I mean? They're like, they put you through the ringer as a viewer. Like he's making you work. And The Northman is coming out April 22nd, 2022, which is right around the corner because it's going to be March in like 2 days, which is kind of crazy.
I'm going to be there opening day.
Nice. You'll be there with a Viking like attire on. That's what I need to know.
I'll do it.
Nice.
But it looks amazing. But The Witch is a great debut film. I'll definitely be there. I'll be picking this up definitely. But there is one more thing from Second Sight that is coming soon.
And that is a film that I don't think needs any introduction. It's one of the more iconic horror films of all time, and that is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original film from all the way back in the 1970s, is getting a 4K UHD release from Second Sight. And yeah, I
No
mean, this movie,
details. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're probably, and now I know next year is going to be the 50th, no, the next 2 years will be its 50th anniversary. So it's about time that it's getting yet again another re release.
Yeah.
Yet again, another Blu ray
It
release,
is one
another
of them
home
films
video
that's been
release.
released a lot, and of course, even in
Yeah.
general, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been remade like way too many times. I mean, how many times?
Yeah, they literally
It
just had
basically
another
just
one.
got rebooted slash remade for like the third or fourth time.
Well,
Um,
this time, I believe they took a page out of what they did with Halloween, as well as not even Scream, but basically Halloween, and made it one of those legacy sequels where they just like erase everything that happened in all the other sequels and all the other movies, and just like be like, oh no, this is the official follow up to the
yeah,
original
whatever.
film. And it's like, okay, I guess that's the thing we're doing now in horror films. I mean, I know a lot of people were talking about it online last week. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise is like several movies deep. Like there's a lot. I mean, originally, of course, directed by Toby Hooper. He directed the second film, which was tonally and completely different than the first.
Mm.
And then the third film tried to get it back on track to what the first one was. The fourth film had early roles by both Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. Then they tried to reboot the franchise again in the early 2000s with both an original film and a prequel.
Yeah,
And then they threw that in the trash. And then they were like, let's make another one. And remember, they had Texas Chainsaw 3D.
I was gonna say the 3D film.
Yep,
Yeah,
with Alexandra Daddario was like the cousin of Leatherface or some shit.
Jesus Christ.
And it takes place in the 80s, like 15 years after the first one. And then they were like, okay, after that, we'll make another one, which was like straight to VOD, which I don't think many people
I'll
saw
be
at
honest
all.
with you, man. I don't understand the. I mean, I know that it's to make money,
Yeah,
but I don't understand the need to keep going back to this particular
franchise?
Yeah, I mean, like it's like some of these other ones I understand, like making another Freddy makes sense because you can do a lot with that. You can do a lot with doing another Scream movie. Apparently, you made 5 of them. But this character is just kind of one note.
Yeah, that is the unfortunateness of it. It's not like you can't
he's not
do much
supernatural.
more.
He's not.
Not only that, I mean, the most recent one came out in the last couple of weeks, and people were complaining about it. And I'm like, there's not much to it. It's a slasher film. It's
Unless you're
it's
gonna take
dumb characters
unless you're gonna
doing dumb things
make
and
him
getting
move
killed.
to the city, or something.
Yeah, but even then it gets tropey. How
Yeah.
many times have we seen that? Like Jason Takes Manhattan. Or
Well, yeah, but at
stuff
least
like
it'll
that.
be interesting, more fun. It'll be funny, probably actually.
Yeah, but it's like then you get the people like, oh, I didn't want this to be funny. I wanted it to be serious.
Of course.
And you get the people like, oh, I didn't want this to be serious. I wanted it to be funny. And then you have just online discourse about all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. There's people who are going to be viciously murdered, and that's going to be essentially
it.
the plot of the movie. I mean, there's
nothing new to learn.
you
here.
can't. Yeah, I mean, the original film people have looked at as it being a social commentary about certain things and whatnot. Because it did come out in the post. Charles Manson world where like such horrific acts were happening in real life, and then now they're on screen and all this kind of stuff. But that we're talking about 50 years ago, cultural context versus now. I mean, it's a whole different story. But I'll just say this: I'm glad that they're re-releasing this in the 4K format because I need to upgrade my old Blu-ray. so that's where it comes down for me. And I was just thinking about upgrading the other day to the 40th anniversary edition, which came out, 2014, 15, wherever. And now I just got to wait till this one comes out. And I'm assuming it's going to have, special features, through the roof and whatnot.
Usually Second
film's
Sight
been
does
talked
a
about
pretty
so many
good job with
times.
new stuff.
Yeah,
So.
and even the Robert Eggers The Witch is going to have new commentary, and it's going to have a 150-page hardback book and art cards and all kinds of stuff. So Second Sight, when they're doing these deluxe releases, they go all out. And for Texas Chainsaw, it's that iconic of a film that I think a lot of people are going to expect a definitive, in quotes, release for this type of movie.
Yeah.
Because that 40th anniversary one was already pretty overstuffed, which I think you have, Stephen.
Yes, I do. The one, the little, like, the truck
Yeah, you have
thing.
the truck version.
Yeah.
But that's it for Second Sight.
Yes.
And now we're moving on to, I would say, another kind of smaller slate in Eureka.
Sure.
Yeah, let's hit all these small ones early on.
Do it.
And Eureka only had a slate of 2 movies for their May releases, and that is Vampire and Revolver. And no, it's not the Revolver, the Guy Ritchie
Oh,
film.
it's not the Guy Ritchie? Ah, jeez.
From like 2009.
Why didn't you tell me that?
No, this is the Revolver film. Is a film starring Oliver Reed from 1973.
Yeah.
Much different type of film. A Vampire, of course, is a film that I think everyone must know of by now because of the Criterion release. That's been around for years.
You're somebody that's definitely into all different types of cinema. You've probably heard of Vampire, especially. If you're into silent films, obviously, it's from Carl Theodor Dreyer.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it came out in 1932, so it's not quite silent, but it's right at early talkies.
It's definitely part of that. But Carl Theodor Dreyer is known for his being a silent film director.
Yeah, I mean, his work is so.
Passion of Joan of Arc is probably the best silent film.
Passion of Joan of Arc is amazing.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff in the Criterion collection that hasn't seen the light of day on Blu-ray yet, which is unfortunate. And I'm hoping that
he has Master of the House? Is Master of the House him?
Yeah, Master of the House is him. You have movies like Day of Wrath, Odette, Gertrude, which I think all may be in like a Carl Theodor Dreyer DVD box set from them. But of course, Vampire, then The Passion of Joan of Arc.
That would be an amazing, like if they did like a new Blu-ray set of his stuff. God, that would be amazing.
I would love that. Yeah. I mean, as it is, I mean, they're doing.
I feel like out of what I've seen of his, like he's such a, for his time was like such a great visual storyteller.
Right.
And of course that comes with, not having sound too, and then of course eventually he did work in sound, but, having to tell stories through just images, he was so good at it,
Yeah, because he comes from that era of German Expressionism, the black and whites, the contrast, all of that aesthetic, which of course, film noir was born out of a bit later on. And of course you had him, you had F.W. Murnau in there as well. Speaking of which, they're re-releasing F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu in theaters. I think Eureka released a trailer of that because they're doing that for, I think, the 100th anniversary, isn't it? Or it's pretty close.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, because it's, and that's, the, kind of first big, vampiric film. And I just, it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Yeah, it came out in 1922, so it is the 100th year anniversary for Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And I would love for that to get a 4K Blu-ray re-release at some point with a nice brand new restoration and stuff. I know Kino put out a Blu-ray here in 2013, but let's face it, that'd be nice.
Also, I think it's if I'm remembering right, I think it's either Arrow or Eureka that put out a UK version of that.
Let me see.
You'll have to confirm that for me because I can't remember. It might be Arrow.
Yeah, a lot of people. First of all, Eureka's put one out.
Maybe it's Eureka's the one I have.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm talking about the original. Nosferatu was put out by Eureka in 2013.
I think that's the one
through their
I have.
Masters of Cinema line.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to see if they came. Yeah, they came out with a steelbook version, and they came out. And the BFI came out with a release in 2015, as well.
Yeah, but this new version is going to have a whole new 2K restoration.
Yes,
of the German
there you
version.
go.
Yeah.
What did I just say?
Did you say it?
I think I just said I wanted a new restoration, and they're giving it to
this
us.
isn't it. Yeah.
Oh, no, a Vampire they are.
Oh, Vampire. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Vampire, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new 2K restoration of the German version by the Danish Film Institute in 2020, so pretty recent.
Oh, that's pretty new. So that's got to be better than the transfer that's on the Criterion, which has got to be several years old by now.
And one of the features I've noticed that is definitely different than the Criterion one is that there is a second commentary because there is the Tony Raines commentary that's on the Criterion, but there's also the Guillermo del Toro commentary on this disc. So there's some things here that might make you need to get this if you really like this film and you want to hear more people talk about it. And there is a 100-page book in this also.
Oh,
That's
nice.
A pretty sizable book for one film.
Yeah, it looks like a thicker packaging as well.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, the size of maybe something like their, they did come out with that. What's the Western that I just recently got? Shit. Your memory's better than mine. The Yellow.
It is. Oh, wow, Yellow. You're talking about the Joan Crawford film.
Joan Crawford film, yeah, whatever. It's going to be, I don't know. I could be wrong. It's probably a little thicker than that.
Is that a thick set? Because I've never
It's not
actually.
that thick. It's pretty.
I tried to buy that the other day.
I
Actually,
don't know. You can never tell with these pictures.
Oh, Johnny Guitar.
Johnny Guitar. It's probably a little thicker than Johnny Guitar, but yeah.
I tried to buy that the other day because, word to the wise, I think Eureka's now sold out of that edition, that Johnny Guitar edition. I think they're done making copies of that. So if you want to get a hand on that, now's the time.
Yeah. Now the artwork also is pretty damn good on this new release too. I like this artwork. Also in like a black and white, kind of way. But it's just very bombastic image of just characters and the title Vampire on the front. I really like it. So
nice. I do want to talk a little bit about Revolver because there's this big Oliver Reed push or movement on Blu-ray nowadays. I guess. I mean, his movies are coming out from all over the place. Like Shout Factory put out one of his films. Imprint's putting out some of his stuff. I just got the Assassination Bureau from Imprint. I mean, there's just a lot of his stuff coming out right now. And Revolver is an Italian film from the, like I said, early 1970s. And basically what happens is Oliver Reed's character is a warden of a prison. And his wife gets captured and he's ordered to release one of the prisoners. And he doesn't know why. And the prisoner doesn't know why. So he's basically trying to track down who kidnapped his wife and why and all that kind of stuff. Sounds like a premise of a modern film that sounds like Taken, actually.
Yeah,
sounds exactly like Taken, almost. But with Oliver Reed. And I'm actually curious because this is getting a new 4K restoration, and the version I watched is streaming on Tubi and was most definitely in standard definition. There's no question about that. So I'm really curious what this film's going to look like with a new 4K restoration. And it's actually a really good film. It's a bit of a thriller. It's not exactly. It's a little long though. I think the movie runs like almost 2 hours, which is way too long for a movie like this. But the third act is really, really good, and Oliver Reed is really, really good in it. I dug it. Cool. I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying it right away, but it's a pretty good film.
So worth
and
taking,
these are the main
worth
releases.
taking a look at.
Yeah, we're taking a look at it. It's part of their Eureka Classics line. I don't know if that's another sub-label from Eureka, but that's where it's coming from. And it's getting a booklet with essays. It's getting a limited slipcover. It's got a brand new commentary by critic Kim Newman. They put a lot of work into it.
Awesome.
So,
Fantastic.
Yeah, that is that. And then let's move over to our dearly, dearly loved friends over at Kino.
We love them so much.
We love them so much. After last week having so much to cover, not so much this week because we caught up on everything last week.
Yeah, you got to stay on top of them.
You got to stay on track. And Steven, so literally the next day after we recorded, they drop another little tiny bomb, but not as big as the one that they dropped today. And I use that term loosely because it's a bit of it's another kind of taking from the Criterion Collection. Coming soon on 4K UHD, brand new Dolby Vision HDR Master is The Manchurian Candidate, the film from John Frankenheimer, classic from 1962. Great film, Amazing film.
I still haven't seen it.
I own this movie twice already.
It's one of them movies that it's like a movie that I'm embarrassed I haven't watched yet because I like I love John Frankenheimer. The Train is I love The Train with Burt Lancaster. I even go all the way to his his what most recent, which was I think Ronin with Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr.
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I love John Frankenheimer, but I just for some reason have not gotten around to this film. I
Yeah,
don't know.
this is for me. I mean, John Frankenheimer's done a lot of work.
Seconds is great.
Yes, like his early stuff when he's dealing with like political stuff, like is really fantastic. I mean, 7 Days in May, which has a Warner Archive release, amazing film. The Manchurian Candidate, which came out right before that, Manchurian Candidate was in '62. 7 Days in May was in
Is
'64.
7 Days in May the one where Burt Lancaster plays like that bad guy politician at the end? Isn't he in that too?
Let me see.
Didn't he show up in that? Or
Yes,
that
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, like there's this big like coup to take over the presidency. Great cast with Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas, Frederick March, Ava Gardner, Edmund O'Brien, Martin Balsam. Really great film.
Yeah.
And Manchurian Candidate is like it's like the film that people reference when you talk about like sleeper agents or people who are brainwashed to be assassins or something. I mean, they literally referenced it in a Captain America movie. I mean, it's so in the conscience of people. This film was remade in the early 2000s with Denzel Washington in the film, and I think that was
that what's his name?
It was
The director that Do the Right Thing.
No.
Was it not him?
It was somebody else. This is
Just kidding. I didn't mean it.
no, it's
Come on, man.
I know. It's Jonathan Demme.
I was gonna say
Jonathan Demme.
you're making me have to start sounding like the president. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Come on, man. I'm
So
sounding like,
I was trying to. I
starting to
couldn't
sound like
remember if it
Biden
was.
over here.
I couldn't remember if it was Ted Demme or Jonathan Demme. I mean, sadly, they've both passed away by now. Unfortunately, Jonathan Demme was a great director, of course, of Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Just a great director. But his version of Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington is not a bad movie. It's actually very, very good.
I've actually
It's a
seen that
great
one.
remake.
The thing is, I've seen that one. I haven't seen this one.
I mean, talk about a good cast.
Yeah.
Denzel, Liev Schreiber, Meryl Streep, Jeffrey Wright. It's a really great cast in there. Obviously, it's more of a not a shot-for-shot remake, but the premise is pretty locked in there to where there's not much wiggle room when it comes to plot or anything. You just kind of like adapt it to a more modern
unfortunately,
setting.
probably most people hadn't seen the original.
Yeah,
you know?
unfortunately. I mean, I know it's a bit of a. I think the Manchurian Candidate's a bit of a classic. So if you went to like film school, I'm pretty sure you watched it incessantly. But this movie is fantastic. Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, Janet Leigh, Angela Lansbury. I remember when this just came out on the Criterion Blu-ray a couple of years ago. I remember I had the original Blu-ray release that had come out, and then I upgraded to the Criterion, but I had to keep my old original because there are some special features that don't carry over to the Criterion, and now we've got to wait and see what this special features package is going to be, because I may end up buying this for a third time because it is that good of a movie. But damn, Kino does it again.
God damn.
Damn it.
All right, let's before you
move on
get too
from there.
angry, let's move on to the
Yeah.
next one.
It's-
We have a
what do
film
we have here,
called
Steven?
Sacco. You say it, Seiko, and
Sacco and Vanzetti.
yes, Italian film. And guess who's also in the special features? Alex Cox again.
Yes, he is. Audio commentary.
Man,
Nice.
he's just every fucking where.
His movies are getting Blu-ray releases now, and he's showing up in Blu-ray releases. It's a good time to be alive.
Yeah, I know, right?
When it comes to being an Alex Cox fan. I don't know if you're familiar with the whole Sacco and Vanzetti case.
I'm not familiar with all the details, but I know it is about a couple kind of political anarchists that are arrested and put to death for basically their political views, not something they kind of got framed for a robbery or something. I only know them surface details. I don't know anything about any detail.
Yeah, it was a whole kind of like a racist type of trial back in the 1920s against, these Italian immigrants of Sacco and Vanzetti. and I think their story's been adapted a few times. And it was something I learned about in history class, once upon a time. It was I for some reason I learned this because it came out in the same era as the Scopes Monkey Trial, which we covered when Kino put out, um, uh, not Inherit, was it Inherit the Wind? Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Maybe
they put out the TV movie
the
version of
TV
Inherit
version,
the Wind from the
yeah,
'90s.
The '90s, yeah.
And we talked about how like there was an original, and then there was the original with Spencer Tracy and Frederick March, and then there was
Yeah, I remember that.
the
yeah.
remake with Jack Lemmon and George C. Scott. But it was in that same era of like I guess big court trials,
Yeah.
big court cases, and Sacco and Vanzetti happened to be one of them. But this is a movie from 1971. Like we said, getting a new commentary. It's getting both a DVD and Blu-ray release too, and I think Ennio Morricone did the score for it.
Well, it's got to be good then.
Hmm.
But it's I mean, it's highly. It looks like it's pretty highly rated. Of a film.
I've never
so,
seen it. I
yeah,
gotta see it though.
It looks like it's also on Amazon Prime, possibly. Sometimes they say it is, but it isn't. So, but it's saying it's to rent. So hopefully, I might actually check this one out soon because it does look pretty interesting. Yeah. What's our next one? We got
We have a 3D film.
Oh wow.
I mean, a little late to the game. 3D is
Yeah.
is not quite as prominent as it was before. It's a little kind of going the way of the dodo as of this point when it
You
comes
say
to
dildo?
dodo,
No,
the dodo
I
bird.
was kidding. I think you might
Get your
have
mind
said,
out of the gutter,
I
Stephen.
think you
Dang.
might have slipped and said dildo by accident, but I'm
I
not.
know.
We'll know when we listen back.
Yeah, roll it back.
Yeah.
I said it goes the way of the dodo
The
bird,
dildos
which is an extinct.
are quite still alive.
Yes, they are. But this is a 3D film that's being put out, but actually was restored by the 3D Film Archive. And this is a film from 1983 called Treasure of the Four Crowns. And I saw a lot of people comparing this to Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark and kind of that type of adventure film. And it looks like it just by the poster or the cover art, which is very poster-ish. And once again, it's a film I hadn't seen, but it's getting a pretty deluxe release. We're getting a new audio commentary, 2 new audio commentaries actually, and it's getting, like I said, a full restoration. So maybe it's a bit of a lost kind of cult,
It's
hit.
a canon film.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And what you're actually getting is also contains 1 pair of anaglyphic 3D glasses.
Hell yeah.
So this is anaglyphic 3D,
So
which they used a lot in the 80s. They did this with the third Jason film,
Yeah.
which was Friday the 13th 3D, 3D.
Well, what's funny is that you say it's only 1 pair, so they don't expect you to watch this with anybody else.
Yeah, I guess you don't have friends.
They're like, this movie, nobody's gonna want to watch this movie with you, so you might as well just. But no,
Well,
I'm just kidding.
I remember the original Blu-ray release of Friday the 13th 3D. They gave you a pair of anaglyph glasses to watch the 3D version of it. I don't know if they did that with the Shout Factory set. I probably should remember, but I just don't right now. But so basically, there's been several versions of 3D. I won't go into all of the formats, but one of them is probably well known, being the anaglyphic 3D with the red and blue, glasses or whatever that you probably remember when you were a kid. If not, then we're just old people.
Well,
but
yeah.
that's kind of how you had to watch them back in the day.
Well, maybe
I remember they also tried that with video games too.
I don't know the correct grammar though, how it's supposed to be taken. But when it says 1 pair, wonder if it means like 2. I mean, I'm assuming when you mean pair of glasses. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
when
they
I
mean
say
one.
when I think pair of glasses, I think just one. Right?
Yeah, I think it's just 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I.
I mean,
that's
it's not
what
like
I
these
assumed.
things are expensive to make.
Well, sure, maybe. I mean, they're probably made of paper,
Yeah, exactly. they're like made of like
paper and plastic,
cardboard, maybe. I don't even know. Like thin paper cardboard. But that is Treasure of the Four Crowns from 1983. It's like a mystical, like adventure type of film in the vein of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Rated PG. There's nothing really, too excited about it. But I think I did see. The score was done by Ennio Morricone as well. Huh.
Jeez.
Yeah, he has a lot of credits to his name. Kind of makes sense.
Well, it's also an Italian film too. So
Yeah, and moving on from there is actually a film I really wanted to watch.
Well,
but I wasn't able to find it.
I wasn't able to find it either, but I might take a chance on this one because this one actually looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, this is something I kind of really want to see, and this may be the only way to see it.
Yeah,
and that is Times Square.
Yeah, and it's got Tim Curry in it. He plays kind of like a radio DJ host type of character. Which, funny enough, I was looking into this. The director, Alan Malloy, I don't know how you say his last name, but he also directed Pump Up the Volume.
Oh, see, that makes me want to buy it even more now.
Right?
It's like, damn.
And Empire Records. So he's got a thing with music.
Music. Yeah.
This is kind of his thing. So it makes me really interested in this director in general. And but this is a film about these kind of like two teenage girls who are kind of like, maligned in their lives, told they have mental illness, things like that. And like, basically they live on the streets of New York and they get really into the punk scene and start their own punk band. And it's about kind of, the name Times Square is about them playing a show in Times Square, to get themselves heard. So it's got a very punk vibe to it, a very, as we've talked about last week with Out of the Blue, kind of a, juvenile delinquent kind of vibe to it. Maybe a little bit more on the softer side with this film, not as harsh as something like Out of the Blue, but it looks very good. I'm very into this.
Yeah, and apparently it has quite a soundtrack of popular acts that people know, like Patti Smith, The Cure, Lou Reed, The Ramones, The Pretenders, all kind of people. And it looks really, really good. This is, of course, getting a brand new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. New audio commentary by film historian Kat Ellinger, who we will be having on the show in a week. What a connection there.
Jeez.
And then there's an audio commentary from the director and star Robin Johnson. It's getting a slipcover as well, and it's coming out May 24th. So you want to circle that on your calendars, especially if you're a fan of Pump Up the Volume.
Yeah.
Because that's such a great film starring Christian Slater.
Yeah. Awesome. Now something that's just as good as that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, moving out to the other side of the spectrum, we have a movie starring...
a monkey.
This is a film starring Ronald Reagan. Of course, would go on to be a president later on and whatnot, but of course he was originally an actor. And this is this is a movie with him and a monkey, and it's called Bedtime for Bonzo.
Let's be correct here. It's a chimpanzee.
Sorry, chimpanzee.
It is a chimpanzee. I'm sorry.
That is correct.
Let me make sure I'm not offending any monkeys out there.
There is a species different when it comes to that. But either way, still have Ronald Reagan, still interacting with a chimpanzee. That's getting a brand new 2K master. This is the movie a friend of mine used to tell me about. Like this, wasn't Ronald Reagan in a movie with a chimpanzee or a monkey or something? It's like, yeah, I guess he was. Called Bedtime for Bonzo. Came out in 1951. I guess that's it.
It's one of them things where you don't think it's real, and
until you actually see it.
And yeah, it's real. It's a thing.
It's definitely a thing.
And what's funny about it is just the scenario itself. Like, so apparently, this is the description. A college professor attempts to salvage his personal and professional reputation by using a laboratory chimpanzee to prove that environment trumps heredity in behavioral development. So he's trying to prove that if this chimpanzee's in a nice environment at a home, that he won't. I guess he'll become more human over his own instincts, I guess. I don't know. Like,
yeah, well, we've seen, we've seen chimpanzees, monkeys, apes in movies before. There's a movie that I really like, called, directed by Howard Hawks. So hey, he's not above it. Starring Cary Grant, Ginger Rogers, Marilyn Monroe, Charles Coburn. It's a movie called Monkey Business, which came out in 1952, not too soon after that, and where Cary Grant plays a chemist, and his personal and professional life is turned upside down when one of his chimpanzees finds the fountain of youth. It's a wild movie. It's a screwball comedy from the 50s, and So they, it's not above the times. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I'm saying. Um, and
What's the Clint Eastwood movie?
oh, Every Which Way But
Yeah,
Loose and Every
dude.
Which Way You Can.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
those
There's
two?
two of them. Yeah.
Those are the first two actually Clint Eastwood films I ever watched.
Really?
Yeah,
I
because
think
I
the
watched them
first.
when I was a kid. Have them on VHS tape
I want to
currently.
say the first one I can remember watching was um, it was either Heartbreak Ridge
Okay.
or it was what's the president one? Where
Is it
in
Courage
the
Under Fire?
in the line of fire.
Oh, okay.
In the line of fire, they were both '90s Clint Eastwood films. So that's, or actually, I think maybe Heartbreak Ridge was '80s, but both of them were films in that time period, and that might have been the first Clint Eastwood I seen was one of them two movies.
Ah.
But Every Which Way We're Loose was also in that mix of like movies I did see of his early on, which they're comedies and they're about him having a friend orangutan. You know, they don't
Yeah,
make
it was Clyde. That was the
yeah
name
Clyde.
of the
That's his name.
orangutan.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Yeah,
But
I remember him because like I even forgot most of the premise of that movie. All I remember is that he always ended up getting in like bare knuckle fights in like the streets. Like that was his thing. Like
yeah,
his character's name was Philo Beto, and he would just like travel around and like get in
yeah, he's
fights with
just like a
people for
trucker.
money. Yeah, and like his brother like was like a tow truck person.
Well,
Yeah,
if you're curious about Every Which Way But Loose, it's on HBO Max. Go ahead and check it out.
is it?
Yes, it is.
And Every Which Way You Can is the sequel, I think.
Yes.
And I remember one being like, one was like sad and one was like happy or something like that. I don't know. It's
Assuming
crazy.
the second one's the sad one, but but yeah. Back to the main attraction here. Bedtime for
Yes.
Bonzo. Monkey chimpanzee monkey movies are a thing, and that would be a funny episode subject all in itself. Is movies about people that have monkeys.
Yeah, or like
Or
they're part of the plot.
chimpanzees
It's not like and it's not like Planet of the Apes or
Yeah, that are not
or the new Planet of the
Apes.
Apes films or anything like that, where like they just happen to be pets of people. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's legal. Can you
It
have
probably isn't. I mean,
well,
it's not a smart idea.
that? Yeah, it must be difficult. But you know what also must be difficult, Stephen?
Let me see what the next movie is, and I can tell you. No,
When
it's
you
good.
wake up today and you realize one of your favorite films of all time is getting yet again another release. Well, actually, just getting kind of a second release by another company. And once again, as we kind of bookend our Kino segment here, they are re-releasing another film from the Criterion Collection, and this is a big personal one for both Steven and I. And this is The Night of the Hunter is getting a 4K UHD release from a 4K scan of the original camera negative.
This one's going to be tough not getting.
This is going to be tough not to buy.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, Steven. I may have to buy this, even with not knowing what the special features are.
Yeah,
'Cause
this
it's
one I
that
might
amazing
have to
of a movie.
indulge in because it is such a great film that I love and because it hasn't gotten any other kind of release other than the Criterion release.
Yeah, and that Criterion Blu-ray is it's an early Blu-ray from
Pretty
them.
early, but it's not too bad.
It's it's not like it's not it's not bad or anything like that. It's just it's it's not going to be as aesthetically pleasing as this. I mean, yeah, the original Night of the Hunter release, and this is the Digipack version, which I believe is now out of print, came out in 2010.
Yeah, so we're
And I know
12 years old.
Yeah, they re-released it a couple of years later in just regular Blu-ray packaging, and they released that in 2014. And I think that was when I thought it was when they were doing their dual format editions, but no, it was just a 2-disc Blu-ray set.
Yeah.
And that's still in print. That's not seemingly not going
Yeah,
anywhere. But what this does bring up is this brings up something that I actually wanted to talk about a little bit. I was telling Stephen before the show, as I wanted to bring this up because someone had asked a question in our Facebook group. in the Chasing Labels, a film collectors podcast group, is that one of our members in there, Julio Barrientos, probably butchering his name. Sorry about that, Julio. But he asked, how does Criterion keep allowing this to happen? And it made me start thinking about why is that? And I started making guesses in my head like I often do. And, I'm no expert at this. Steven's no expert at this, I don't think.
What? No,
damn it. And then probably the people we've had on the show are more hip and more understanding about these types of, legal situations. I don't think Criterion really has a choice about who does or doesn't put out these 4K UHD releases, because of whatever the wording is in the contracts that they make originally when it comes to acquiring the films that they have in the collection and the films that they keep in the collection. Because, certain companies, depending on the contracts they make, only go for so many years. Then they have to renew them, or maybe they're contracts forever, for all we know.
When these contracts were probably originally made, that 4K wasn't in a format yet.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. That the wording in the contracts, when it comes to the acquisition of these films for distribution or whatever, probably didn't factor in the UHD format because it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time to renew them, they probably just, re-signed the same contract they had before.
Yeah.
And that also brings me to like the idea that the person that you're probably renewing the contracts with, whoever owns these movies, the studios or whoever, if you even, maybe you bring up, hey, we want to release it in UHD format now because it's a new format, they'll be like, hey, you have to pay another acquisition fee to get it.
Yeah.
So you're basically paying, double or whatever, how much more to get the movies that you already have, to release them in UHD format. So Criterion's probably like, hey, we can't afford to reacquire the films we already have, so we just can't do it. Or we can only do it for a certain amount or a certain number of films, and it cost factors into that and all that stuff too. So Kino just says, hey, we don't own it, we got the money, and we'll just do it.
Yeah, I was going to say also just I think that the Kino pulled the trigger earlier than anybody, I think. Like they seemed to be, they'd made a decision that they were going to do 4K, and they obviously just went ahead and started, just acquiring things pretty quickly.
Yeah, they made certain deals with certain studios for certain movies. Like, for example, I know they made, last year, I think we talked about it a little bit, they made some big deal with MGM, and that's why they're able to release a bunch of MGM pictures. That's probably why they were able to re-release The Great Escape, because The Great Escape is an MGM film that actually already had a Blu-ray from MGM that actually looked pretty terrible, and then Criterion released that on Blu-ray a few years.
They just put out that Blu-ray.
They just put that out, I don't know, 3-4 years ago? Yeah. And
no, it was last year, yeah.
No, was it?
Yeah, that
we're in
Great Escape was last year. It was like last summer.
Oh, you're talking about the Kino release?
No. The Criterion release was pretty recent.
Yeah.
Of The Great Escape.
It was, I'm actually going to look it up right now.
Yeah, please, because I want to know that I'm right on this.
2020.
Okay, so it was 2 years ago.
Damn.
Shut up, Steven.
I mean, if we were doing this
it's still pretty close. I was still pretty close.
Yeah,
okay.
it came out in May of 2020. It's not even a 2-year-old release, and it's already gotten a 4K release from Kino, a couple of months ago? So not even, like a year and a half, not even. So Kino just jumped on that train very, very quickly, like we've talked about so many times. And I guess, and like I was saying, I think when it comes to Criterion, they're not losing the rights to these movies. It's not like their editions are going out of print. They just don't have the rights to put them out in the UHD format.
Yeah.
And what is interesting is I thought that Kino could only put out the films in the UHD format and not put out a Blu-ray disc of them, but that's not the case because I looked it up for The Great Escape, and it is a UHD and Blu-ray combo pack.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So I don't even know what language is put in there for them to be able to put out a Blu-ray. Maybe because it is such a different release from a different source that they can get away with it.
I was gonna say sometimes they make deals based off of like contents of the package itself. Like if it's a multi-pack like that, that's different than just a single Blu-ray pack. Like it's it just depends. There's so many different like facets to like a contract about this stuff. I think
Yeah,
that
exactly.
there's wormholes.
And because the UHD is technically, like I was saying, technically another form of the movie, it's not the same version that Criterion has, so therefore Kino can put them out in both formats and not be legally screwed over it.
Yeah.
Yet again, it's such a legal thing that we know nothing about because we don't work for these companies, so we're just making guesses. But that would be my guess, which it's not great for the consumer because now we once again have to.
It is good for the consumer to have options, but I mean for people that have already invested in other versions, yeah, sure, you're put in a conundrum of having to buy something again. So it's or have to sell something we talked about this a little bit last week with the Cinematic Void guys about how they're running. It's not. I don't think they're running out of movies to restore. It's just hard to find sometimes a reason to restore certain movies. And so what are they doing? A lot of going back to the well. They're going back to things that they've already acquired before and just restoring them even further instead of going looking for new things. So yeah, I mean it seems to be we're in that kind of like groove right now with a lot of these companies where they're just upgrading things we've already got and before
they're going back
new
to
things.
I mean, it is kind of like milking us as consumers when it comes to making money off of us. I mean, but it is also nice that they are paying attention to the restoration and preservation of these films. But it's like how many times are they going to restore?
Yeah.
These films. Like,
I think we're at a point that I think hopefully, and this is
I think we've reached the plateau.
This is the plateau, and I don't see how there could be any other format that would that can eclipse what we're at right now, and people would keep buying it because I honestly, Blu-ray felt to me like that it was good. It was the best it needed to be, and yes, there is examples where 4K really looks good, but to me, 4K is only needed in certain circumstances. I don't know that every film needs a 4K upgrade, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be a great release. I think we don't have any details on any special features yet, but I'm sure that'll come out soon because this is probably a May or June release. Unless this is just way off in the distance because it's
coming soon.
Yeah, so. But
which kind of leaves it a little wide open. So, it could be anytime. Because the other releases that we've talked about so far have all been, like, kind of that May corridor. But moving on from Kino, because we kind of put that to rest, we have come to our grand finale. I don't know why I really accented that there. But our grand finale is Arrow Video. Dropped a bunch of releases this week. Couple of them kind of leaked out a little bit on Thursday. The rest of them came out an official announcement on Friday, and yeah, it's quite a slate of movies, and I'm liking the slate, Steven. How are you feeling about the slate?
A very interesting slate. We got our May releases, and what we got going on here is we got a one that was kind of a surprise. It got teased by a picture of just Bacon by Arrow, and of course that alludes to Kevin Bacon, who is always cool, and that is his role in the film Wild Things from 1998.
Yes, and indeed,
it's getting a 4K and a Blu-ray. And it looks to be getting different versions. I know that I got it here. There is going to be a limited edition 4K that is going to be a UK, US, and Canadian release, and then there's also a dual format steelbook that's also UK, US, and Canadian. Then there's also a deluxe steelbook that's also all three regions. And then, they're all the same. Okay, so there's like 4 versions of this coming out. Either in UK or dual format steelbooks. So
so this will be a region.
It's
in all regions. It's in the US, Canada, and the UK. All these different versions.
So I guess region A, B. Yeah.
Pick which one you want.
Yeah.
I'll say this: I am happy about this release because I was telling Steven earlier this week, this uh, this particular film, of course, is notorious for several reasons.
It's notorious for its threesome scene.
It is, but it is. I mean, it's a film that I think it was only remembered for that, but it's also kind of a '90s neo noir,
Yeah.
Thriller, if you will. It's got twists and turns and everything like that, and it kind of goes along with what we were talking about last week.
I was gonna
when
say,
it comes to that box set.
I was gonna say it would not surprise me that in the next volume of that neo noir set of from Imprint, that Wild Things could somehow get in there. It would not surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either. But I'll say this: when it comes to just the general history of Wild Things on Blu-ray, the only Blu-ray we've ever gotten here in Region A land, and even I don't even think it's ever been released in the UK at all. From what I'm looking at here, but in the Region A land, we had a Blu-ray release put out by Sony Pictures in 2007. And it was only the unrated edition, and there was no special features.
Wow.
So this is a massive upgrade from that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get both the theatrical and the unrated cuts of the film. You're getting a plethora of special features, which is really nice to see.
Yeah.
Because it's, if it's gonna be a deluxe edition, especially a 4K edition, man, that's gonna be a hell of a restoration of both of those cuts of the movies. And the packaging looks really, really good. I actually really like the packaging, just the regular edition. I'm not a big fan of that steelbook packaging style. It looks a little Photoshop to me.
Well, it looks a little Photoshop, looks a little cartoony, maybe.
Yeah. It looks
doesn't
like
really doesn't really fit the vibe of the movie.
I mean, it looks like they just pasted they cut out cutouts of the characters from certain scenes.
Yeah.
And kind of pasted them on a generic pool background.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt Dillon, underrated actor in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Neve Campbell is in the film as well. This was post Scream Neve Campbell. I've always been a big fan of Neve Campbell, even in Scream and outside of Scream. It's a good film. It's a little sleazy, erotic, thrillerish. that '90s kind of vibe to it. But I liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is a big get. And then moving on from there, we've got a re-release because Arrow's done this numerous times. We're getting a 4K re-release of Candyman, the classic '90s horror film. I mean, they just had a new Candyman movie that came out last year, which I thought was actually really, really good. It's yet again another one of those legacy sequels where it's just being a direct sequel to the original film, but I thought it was done really, really well. But this is the original film, of course, starring Tony Todd, Virginia Madsen. This has gotten a release from several companies, but I think Arrow has had the most deluxe release.
Yeah, and this is a new 4K restoration of the original negative. So there is an upgrade here. It's not just a new scan of like an old restoration, or like it's a new.
I think they had to, for the 4K, because I don't remember.
Yeah.
What the original, because the original deluxe edition came out, several years ago now.
But it's
actually not so. I think it came out in 2019.
It's not that long ago, honestly, because I remember getting it not that long ago. But
oh, you have the original release.
Yeah, I have that Blu-ray release, that last one they did. But
yes,
and it looks good. I mean, I don't know that I'll upgrade this one. I think this one I'll stay away from. But it's a good film. It's good. It's in itself a folk horror type of film.
Yeah, and when it comes to here, that's probably actually no, because it's UHD, it's region free.
Yeah.
But when it comes to releases here, we of course had the Scream Factory release from a few years ago as well, which had, I believe, a different type of transfer and different extra features because of the exclusivity of when it comes to these features. But yeah, that's Candyman. That's an all-time classic. It's a great film. I haven't seen any of the sequels to the original because I heard they're not very good.
Yeah.
Other than the most recent film, but I wouldn't stop anybody from buying this because it's Candyman.
Yeah.
But speaking of a movie that, man, Steven, you ever you ever take acid and go on a trip? Well, if you haven't, all you have to do is watch this movie because it feels
wait a
like you
second.
have.
Let's stop there before you get any further. Have you done that? Because
No,
you
I
act like
haven't.
you have.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, don't ask me questions
But I
about
felt
what you
like
don't know
I
what you're
did the
talking
other
about.
night. But we're undercutting here because this is Gaspar Noé's film Enter the Void. Now, recently, his film Irreversible has gotten a deluxe Blu-ray release from from Indicator Films. I believe that's still in print. There are still copies of that floating around if you want to get it. But this is his other most known film in Enter the Void, and this is getting a much needed Blu-ray release. Because when it comes to his films getting Blu-ray releases, I think yet again this was a plain like Jane, like bare bones release from 2009. Is the version we have here, and I don't even know if they ever got one in the UK. No, they didn't actually. So Enter the Void had a release here in 2009 with a couple of extra features, but nothing really to write home about, like some deleted scenes, some trailers, some visual effects, special feature things, and whatnot. But this movie is unlike any movie that probably many of you have never seen before. Gaspar Noé is such a provocateur when it comes to his films that he's just messing with you as a viewer.
Yeah.
And this film is very much like that. So what happens is there is this person named Oscar, this character. He's a drug dealer and a drug user, and he ends up dying. And what happens is he basically has an out-of-body experience where his spirit starts floating above things and going in and out of memories and in and out of places and all this kind of stuff. And the camera perspective throughout nearly the entire runtime of this movie is a POV perspective. And the movie is 161 minutes. So you are locked into this for that long.
There's two versions. There's the US version, or there's a 143-minute UK theatrical cut, and then there's a full-length 161-minute director's cut.
Which is what I watched. 2 hours and 41 minutes of just...
That's what I watched.
And the visual effects in this movie, this is 2009, are insane. The colors, the brightness, the way in which he transitions from sequence to sequence, from scene to scene, is unlike anything I've seen before. Like, he'll take you on this journey through, like down a drain in like a sink drain, and then you'll come out into another scene in some other time frame, in some other place. It may not be a memory, it may be a hallucination, it may be something, but the film is deeply philosophical. It's trying to say all kinds of things about life and whatnot. Maybe extremely pretentious for people, but if anything, this movie is ambitious as hell.
Well, and I was telling him before.
I dug it.
I was gonna say I was telling Andrew off mic that with his films, they're just always it's an attack on your senses, an attack on your kind of like not your senses, your kind of your morals, your ethics,
this movie. I was telling Steven, very sexual, a lot of sexually explicit scenes.
I mean, his films are pretty, like you said, provocateur. Most of his films have some kind of sexual element to them.
He did a whole movie called Love in 3D where it's just like people actually like, having sex and stuff, and it's just he's just playing with us as an audience member.
Yeah,
and it's just that's
also,
what he does.
There's also like an auditory and like visual, like we were talking about at the beginning of this movie. The beginning credits are like in this really like crazy
strobe
like
lights.
Flashing lights and quick cutting and like way that like just overloads your mind.
Yeah, if you have like an issue with seizures or epilepsy or a sensitivity to strobe lights or flashing lights or anything like that when it comes to your brain, do not watch the opening of this movie.
These movies.
But This specific edition here is only getting a high definition Blu-ray presentation, so I don't know if they were able if it's a new aesthetic to a new upgrade from the original Blu-ray. I'm not quite sure. We are getting brand new video interview with a No Way collaborator. We're getting all of those archival making of featurettes from the original release as well. It's getting a collector's booklet coming with it as well. Poster, 6 double-sided postcard sized art cards, all that kind of stuff. But transitioning over to another film of his,
Yeah.
and this is a film that he did 10 years after that, is a bit of a short film. The film only runs about 51 minutes long, called Lux Eterna. And this film stars Charlotte Gainsbourg and Beatrice Dahl, and they're basically playing versions of themselves. And this film, another film of his, which is just so many different things. It's so experimental.
I haven't seen this one, so yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to find to watch. So I'm glad it's getting a release, but I don't know if a movie that's only 51 minutes long needed its own release, or it could have been an extra.
It could have been like a
on
double.
an extra
They could
disc.
have added it to Enter the Void, and it could have.
Yeah, and it could have been on. Maybe there's an extras disc, and
Yeah.
it's just Lux Eterna with all of its special features. It could have been like a Gaspar Noé double feature edition or something.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of cool. Because this is getting a brand new audio commentary. It is getting a new visual essay. It's getting. There's actually a short film on here as well.
Kat Ellinger's also in here as well. Again.
Yes.
She's all
yes,
over
she
this
is.
stuff. Yeah. It would have been nice if we had had her this week.
I know. Coincidentally, she's come
Hopefully,
up
she's on some
twice.
stuff next week.
Yeah, I know. But Lux Eterna, basically, Charlotte Gainsbourg is. The movie takes place around the making of a movie or a scene of a movie. And Charlotte Gainsbourg is in this movie. And Beatrice Dahl is the director of the movie that she is in. And it's just going like throughout all of the problems and issues that's going on around shooting this scene. There's infighting, there's people moving around, there's people asking questions, there's not people not knowing what the hell they're doing, and all this kind of stuff. But the way in which he shoots most of the movie is he shoots it in a double screen split where you're following like two things happening at the same time in different parts of what's going on, and then sometimes there's like crossover parts as well, so you're seeing the same thing happen from two different camera perspectives. It's insane. And then I won't give away anything because there's really nothing to give away, but I feel at a point in this movie that Gaspar Noé is just trying to give us, the audience, like a brain seizure or something. Like he audio and visually tries to destroy your brain at some point. Gaspar Noé is one of the most interesting directors. A lot of people like him. A lot of people hate him. I know Irreversible is a controversial film, harsh film to watch for many reasons. I know Steven watched it for the first time last year.
Yeah.
He now understands how rough that movie
rough.
can be.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, and that's the type of director he is. He's on that same surrealist, wild level of David Lynch. But David Lynch, I don't feel, is trying to destroy us in any way.
He's like David Lynch meets Lars von Trier or something.
He's like an unhinged version of like a David Lynch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. But yeah, Gaspar Noé's films are unique experiences to say the least. I had never seen Enter the Void until this point, and I kind of was waiting to when I was ready because I knew how big of a psychological commitment it was going to be, and it definitely was. But moving on from there, we're going different perspective.
And we should say that these are UK only releases, so except for the 4K, of course, where there's 4K and it's free with the rest.
Yeah, the both Enter the Void and Lux Eterna are UK only releases. Makes me wonder who owns the rights here and why they haven't put out a release yet.
Yeah,
but if you're looking to import,
maybe Indicator has some US rights, possibly because they did do Irreversible, so it's possible that maybe they have rights to some US over here.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, we have actually a straight up US release.
US Canadian street.
US Canadian, and the reason why this is a US release only because Eureka just put this movie out like 2 years ago, and it's the same exact transfer that Eureka has put out. The only difference is a it has a special feature that edition doesn't have.
Okay.
That's the only difference. And this movie is called One Armed Boxer, and it's a Golden Harvest film from 1970, I think, 1972. And it's a martial arts film that we've been covering so many of them now. They're starting to all run together a bit.
Yeah.
And this is One Armed Boxer. And the special feature that is the main difference between that Eureka edition and this one is there's a career retrospective interview with Wang Yu, filmed in Nantes in 2001 and never released before, courtesy of the Frederick Ambrosine Video Archive. That's the only difference. The commentary is the same, restoration is the same, and all that stuff. And that was actually tweeted out, I think, by one of the producers at Arrow. So he was straight up saying that's the only difference between these two releases, and that's the reason why this is a U.S. release only and not a U.K. release, because Eureka has those rights.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie. It's action packed, super action packed martial arts films. I really enjoyed watching it a lot, and this is one that I'm looking forward to add to the collection. I really love the cover.
Yeah.
The cover of this is so wildly badass and a representation of the movie.
Awesome. And our last one is actually,
Yes.
It looks like region free, and it's coming in two different kind of cover art editions where you have probably the original title, which is Girls Night Out, and then the kind of alternative title, which is the Scare Maker. Which one do you like better? I like the Scare Maker.
Thing is, both of them have nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, I know. But I think the Scare Maker sounds better. I don't know why.
Scare Maker is a better title.
Yeah.
Scare Maker is a better title because Girls Night, to be honest, Girls Night Out hasn't, that's not
sounds
even
like a comedy.
remotely indicative of this movie.
Yeah.
And at no point are there just a bunch of, women going out and then they get killed. It makes it feel like it's like a slumber party massacre or something like that, and it's not. It actually takes place on a college campus, so there's both men and women being killed by this killer.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why that's called Girls' Night Out, but either way, it is getting, like you said, different covers. The one that says the Scare Maker and has the different art, I believe, is an Arrow Store exclusive slipcover. That's what I believe.
Gotcha.
And so Girls' Night Out is a early 1980s slasher film. That's, probably not well known, more of a cult hit, if you will. I actually ended up watching it on YouTube of all places, so that kind of shows you where it is in terms of distribution history.
And that Scare Maker release is actually also region free. It's set for Canada, so you can get the Girls' Night Out version everywhere, but then the Scare Maker version is only in UK and US. So for some reason, the Canadians ain't gonna be able to get that one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
No. Yeah,
it's weird.
The movie is it's an okay slasher film. It's,
okay.
Like, I was watching it and I'm like, okay, when are we gonna get to the when are the murders going to happen in this movie? You know what I mean? Because when you go in watching a slasher film, you're watching it for the creepy horror aspect of the slasher characteristics of people getting killed in inventive ways and all this kind of stuff. Maybe some gore factor in it if you like that. So I was just waiting for it to get going. It was such slow going. But it's okay. It's fine. I wouldn't run out and get this if you're hesitating about it. I think there are other better slashers that came out in that early 1980s time frame. But it is getting a brand new 2K restoration from 35mm Vault Elements. Little cagey there. Brand new commentary from two film historians. Getting a brand new interview. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brand new interviews.
Jesus.
And 2 archival interviews. Damn.
Overcompensating much? No,
I mean, if you can find people to talk about the movie, you might as well get them.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like it's all actresses and an actor. Yeah.
Okay.
So people who were obviously directly involved.
Oh, yeah. Well.
So that's Girls' Night Out.
Yeah, Girls' Night Out. And that is this episode of Chasing Labels. That's it for tonight. Well, yeah, a lot of good stuff this week. I'm excited about some of these releases. I unfortunately have to cut back my buying, so I might have to wait a little bit before I buy some of this stuff. But I will probably be picking up definitely that Wild Things. 4K is high on my list, and of course that Monkey movie with Ronald Reagan is pretty not high on my list. But yeah, good stuff. Where can you be found, Andrew?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or you can find me at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Twitter at Chasing Labels, Instagram at Chasing Labels Pod, or you can go follow me on my Letterboxd at Chasing Labels. You can also find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.